Welcome back to the Maria Sanchez Show. We're live. It is Monday, November 15th. We have Andrea Vigil in the studio with us. She's the program manager with CASA, which is an acronym because there's another CASA in the county. We don't want to confuse them. But we do want to remind you to mark your calendars for Thursday, November 18th. We'll be broadcasting live from the Ronald Reagan Library when President George W. Bush visits us to talk about his book, Decision Points. So, Andrea, welcome to the program, and correct me every time I mispronounce your name.
Oh, no worries.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
And CASA stands for?
It's Court-Appointed Special Advocates.
And that is a program that you wanted to get the word out because you're looking for court-appointed special advocates?
We are. We train volunteers from the community to come alongside kids in foster care. We are appointed the most high-risk kids, the kids that, like this little guy, get moved around a lot because they don't have really healthy families. We have over 200 children appointed to our program currently. We only have 135 advocates for them. So we have about 90 kids that are on our wait list waiting for an advocate to come alongside them.
And what does it mean to be an advocate? Can you go through a day or a week in an advocate's life?
Yeah, we provide our advocates with 40 hours of training. They learn just about everything they need to know about foster care, about what goes on for foster kids, the kinds of issues they face, the types of placements they're in. They can be in a group home with other kids their age. They could be in a shelter. That's a temporary place like Casa Pacifica, which is in Camarillo. A lot of people confuse us with them. And we have a lot of children that we advocate for that are placed in Casa Pacifica. Or they could be in foster homes. Or they can also be located with their parents, but they're monitored. So we train our volunteers. They spend 40 hours in training. They learn about being a mandated reporter. They learn all about the legal system for foster youth. They learn about the services that foster youth get, and then they write reports to the judge every 6 months to let the judge know how the kids are doing. These volunteers see the kids a couple hours a week, just like a big brother or big sister would. However, we are sworn in as officers of the court, and so we report directly to the judge.
So I always thought that to have a foster child meant that they actually came into your home and into your life and that they were yours until such time as they got placed with the permanent or whatever.
Right.
Got to be maturity. So you're saying this is a different way of interacting with a foster child and a foster system.
Correct, it is. These kids that we see are placed in those homes. However, because placements can be not continuous, we stay with the child when they may be moved. So we get children that are likely to be moved very often. I have a couple kids that I advocate for. I was a volunteer before I started working for the program. And since February when I got my little one, she's already been moved 5 times. And it can be just a lot of reasons for why they're moved. It can be because a foster home wants to do something temporary because they think that the family's going to reunite with the child. And so they go, okay, well, we already spent our time, so now we already made other plans, and they could be really great, but they just didn't have the full-time goal in mind for them. So then a child will be moved, or a child might be moved because they're just having a difficult time adjusting to a home because every home has different rules and expectations, and these kids are small. We could imagine as adults how hard it would be if every time we went into somebody's house somebody said, we want you to do this, this, and this, and we're adults and we go, oh, that's really hard. And you imagine a little guy who doesn't know what's going on, his family's gone, he doesn't have his sisters and brothers around anymore, and they're having even a harder time. And a lot of times they've been removed because they've been sexually abused, physically abused, or really badly neglected.
And how is it determined that you get the most at-risk ones?
Because there are 600 kids in foster care in Ventura County currently, and we only have 200 of those appointed to our program. We only have 200 of those because we don't have that many volunteers. The judge has often said that if she could, she would appoint a CASA to each child in dependency.
So if somebody's watching today and they're thinking, okay, this might be for me, first of all, they must have to clear some kind of background, right? And then are there fees involved?
Very little fees. Yeah.
And then they take the 40 hours of training, which is broken up like 5 Saturdays for 8 hours?
4 Saturdays and a few weekdays in between.
Okay. And are you on a track that you have to make that, or can you do maybe 2 Saturdays one month and then 3 the next? Or
no, we offer 3 trainings a year, and they are a track only because we don't have the resources to be able to train people as often as they would like to come in. We try to get a group of about 20 at least, and then do a training 3 times a year, which they're throughout the year.
And so you're not asking them to be a foster parent. You're asking them to be a foster advocate.
Yeah.
So that's where the distinction is coming in here in the conversation. I would imagine that you get attached.
You do.
And that's got to be tough too, because you see what they're going through, and I would imagine that there's a little bit of a rescue thing going on.
There is. It's hard. It's really hard because you have to try to keep your objectivity, and you want to make sure that you're doing the best for the child. The best interest of the child and the family is what we really try to keep in mind at all times. And we're there just to be their friend, to make sure that they're not falling through the cracks, to make sure that even though they're moved several times, that somebody's keeping track of their grades in school, somebody's making sure that they're, getting their dental work done, that they go to the doctor, that, they're seeing their therapist, because they need that when they're being moved so many times and they're away from their families. So we make sure that everything is going right, because everybody's got so much going on and they lose track of these kids. And the advocate is really the person that stays alongside the child. We ask for a 12 to 18 month commitment. Many of the children are in the system at least that long, so at least they have that stability for a period of time, and it gives them a sense of somebody is watching out for me, and I'm not just floating out there without nobody knowing what's going on for me.
Now, what is the age range for advocates, and what is the age range of the foster child?
Advocates have to be 21 years old and older. They have to have clean driver's records. We do a really thorough background check. It's a national FBI, and all kinds of checks are done. They can't have any kind of alcohol thing on their driver's record at all, because they're driving kids around. So they have to have a fairly clean driver's record. And the kids that we get are between 5 and 18 years old. And
when the advocate sees the child for 2 hours a week, is that fun time? Is it let's go grab a bite to eat, let's go to a movie, or is it how are things going and what's going on? And
yeah, it's a balance of all of those things. You want to make it fun for them. Sometimes it's hard for them to be in a home, and then it may not be easy, so you want to kind of give them a diversion, but at the same time you're probing them. Little car rides are a really good time to find out, hey, what's going on for you, and how's your week going, how's school, how are you getting along with your foster sisters or brothers, is everything good, are you sleeping good at night? So I kind of get lost sometimes on purpose when I'm driving so that I have a little bit of time, because when you're doing something, you're at the park, it's hard to really have a conversation.
And how does a foster child know to trust an advocate? I mean, they've been through the system, they've been abused or neglected or abandoned, or I would imagine that they have real trust issues to begin with. So why suddenly would they open up to someone?
Yeah, it takes time. That's the relationship building part. We, being there every week and letting them know that we're going to be there the next week, and that if we can't, we call them or we text them, or we, whatever kind of communication that we can. And just being that consistent person that's there for them, that trust starts to build. And the judge, when they appoint a CASA to the kids, if the child is in court, she says, I'm appointing you a CASA, and this CASA is going to make sure you're doing okay. So they get told that from a lot of different people.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to go into some of the details about the sessions that you're mentioning, and if one is coming up soon, I'm assuming so, that's why you're here. And then what you can share so that folks know how bad it can be out there, because I think a lot of us here in the county think we live in Mayberry, and we know that bad things happen, but we don't really, that the girl, the 8-year-old who was allegedly killed by her mother, case in point, and stuff like that. That seems like that's the exception. But if you're telling me that there's 600 foster kids in the county and a third of them are deemed high at risk, that's a lot. That's a huge percentage.
It's huge.
Andrea Vigil, program coordinator.
Program manager.
With CASA, court-appointed
special advocate.
Maria Sanchez here. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Thank you for watching.
The Maria Sanchez Show is about the county, by the county, and for the county. Whether we are simulcasting live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, checking in with the leaders of our communities, hearing from our elected officials, helping to promote public safety, preparedness, and wellness. We are here for the needs of Ventura County. The Maria Sanchez Show is also about entertainment and events, sharing information, creating awareness, and supporting those in need. Won't you join us as we rewrite the rules of local television on the Maria Sanchez Show at www.kadytv.com.
Welcome back to the Maria Sanchez Show right here at kadytv.com. You're on the ground floor. If you're watching, we do appreciate it. We've kind of been still going under the radar. We've been having production since August. This is the beginning of our 4th week that we're going live, but we're still a work in process, a project in process, something like that. You know, so like we're still the Play-Doh that you're going to be molding. So I like to call us the real reality show. What you see is what you get. It's not some scripted thing that they cut and they edit to make the story go the way they want. One of the things that's really important to the Maria Sanchez Show is that we let other people know not only about good news, but about the many and varied 501c3s that are in our county, of which there are over 2,000 of them. They all serve a very important purpose. Each has their own niche, and that is one of the reasons that we have Andrea Vigil in studio with us. She is the program manager with CASA. And before we go any further, I would like to say that this young fellow here is a prototype. It's not a real young man who's a foster child in the system.
Correct.
So it was like a model, if you will.
Yes.
Yeah, because we were talking about that their anonymity is protected, obviously, because they're children in danger. So, Andrea, how is it that you got involved? You said you were involved initially as a volunteer.
Yes. I had been living in Ventura County for 18 years and never heard about this program, which has been in the county for 25 years. Actually, we're celebrating our 25th anniversary this year, which is the reason we were hoping to bring some attention to the program, because we're thinking 25 years and hardly anybody knows about us, and it's such a worthy thing to be doing. And so I had met the prior program manager at my old job, and she told me about the program. I said, I have to volunteer for that. And at the time I was volunteering for a million other things as well. But it struck a chord with me because I love children, and especially, I always dreamed about being a missionary, and I'm like, not so much anymore. But it's nice to be able to do something locally and not even have to go to Mexico. You can do this all the time.
Well, and you're making a good point, because we have children in need right here.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They get, the county receives over 3,000 calls of abuse a year. 600 of those kids wind up in dependency, and then about 200 or more, if the judge had her druthers, she would assign more to us, but we just don't have enough volunteers.
Who takes the other 400?
She assigns us the most needy kids, and so they just don't have somebody looking out for them. So hopefully they're doing okay. We just keep our fingers crossed and keep good thoughts for them. But, you know, we have just over the last several months really seen the difference that CASAs can make in kids' lives. There's stuff going on in group homes that if somebody didn't know, and this kid is in a group home, she doesn't have family and doesn't have anybody looking out for them on the weekends or anybody picking them up. If something happens and a CASA doesn't know, nobody knows. Nobody tells the judge because it's just not ever discovered. So it's a really important thing to do with your time, and it's just a few hours a week. You know, it's like I sit home and watch TV still after working 50 hours a week, and It's a few hours a week, and it's not always easy. You're like, oh, I'm tired today. I don't know if I really want to get up and take my CASA kid to breakfast or take him to the park, but you do it, and you just know that you've done a good thing.
Now, how do you get the message across to them that I'm here for you, but I can't be there for you Monday through Sunday? Like, they must think, well, if we have a relationship or I feel close to you, that why can't I have you more?
Sometimes they do.
I bet.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they get really close to their CASAs, especially if they're in a group home or a shelter and they don't have other family picking them up. They're like, why can't you adopt me? Why can't you be my guardian? And it becomes really difficult when those questions are asked. And sometimes our CASAs do become the guardians. So we try to dissuade them from that, but they become very close, especially over several years. We've had some CASAs that have been with their kids for 4 years or more.
Nice.
And they even after they emancipate, they stay in touch with their kids.
So when you speak in terms of group homes or shelters, I'm assuming you're speaking about older foster children that are teenagers. Because we don't put little ones in group homes, do we?
Not so much unless they're really hard to place. Sometimes they just have some really severe behavioral issues. And
Is Casa Pacifica considered a group home?
It's an emergency shelter care.
Okay.
But because sometimes the kids are there for a period of time, it could be 6 or 7 months. It's not what they would hope. Usually they keep them there very temporarily. It's very expensive to house a child there because it is an emergency shelter. So they're hoping that a month or right around that time, but some children stay longer, and there could be small ones there.
Yeah. Well, they take 0 to 18
Yeah,
in Casa, I know.
very small, yeah.
So if we didn't finish your story, you were a volunteer.
Yes. So I became a volunteer, and I got my first CASA kid on her 16th birthday. It's almost been 2 years now, and she's about to emancipate. And then my husband became a CASA several months ago, and he got a little boy, and I got the little sister to that boy.
Oh.
And so we see them, we realize that it's not as easy to see them together because they compete for our attention and stuff. So now we're kind of seeing them more on our own, which kind of defeats the purpose of doing it together. But at least we can talk about it because we have to maintain confidentiality. And so you really can't talk about your child with anybody else that you know, except for just saying, yeah, I have a boy or a girl, and you may be able to say their age. But so we can share because we have that confidentiality that we keep with one another. We can talk to each other. Otherwise, you can only talk to your case manager or me or the program manager or another CASA who may have some kind of an interest in that case.
So you got your first foster child when she was 16,
yes.
And then how do you go from volunteer to program?
Yeah, that was people say
so this is really hard to pull this out of you.
CASA, you didn't find CASA, CASA found you. I think it was just the time. It was a really interesting time because I knew my prior job was coming to an end, and so I said I'll just make myself available as much as you need me at the program, and then the opportunity just came up for me to have this position.
So now it's your job.
Now it's my job, and I'm still a volunteer. So I still see the kids.
Sometimes I think that's just the best way because you came through the ranks. You did it for the love. You didn't do it for the salary or the position.
No, you don't do this job for the salary. I think I made more when I was 16 than I do now.
And what have you learned about our foster system that you would like to change?
I've learned that, there's some really great things available. There's some really great social workers. There's some really great services out there. As you noted, there's a lot of 501c3s, and a lot of them have to do with foster youth. And so there's a lot of support, especially these days, because I think everybody's starting to recognize the need to be proactive in addressing the issues that foster youth have, especially given the fact that most kids that are 18 and 21 that are homeless were foster youth. When the prison population was between the ages of 18 and 24 were former foster youth, many of them. So there's a real movement to be proactive in recognizing the value of mentorship and of advocacy for kids and letting them know that they have some options, that they're not just alone out there floating around, nobody caring for them. A lot of them have severe abandonment issues, and there's a lot of prostitution and drugs and suicide and just a lot of issues that they're dealing with. So the more we can be proactive about it, the better.
And when they're moved around to different homes, what happens to them academically?
They fall back.
Because it's different schools too.
They
right?
have different, the parents, some of them are real proactive, or some of them have more kids at home, and everybody tries as best as they can, but it depends on what the value they place on education. So, and it's just hard for the kids to keep on top of things when they've got to get used to new kids in their class, new teachers, new surroundings.
The girl that you said that you had that has had 5 homes, how old is she? Is this the one
She's
about
8.
to be 8? Oh, she's 8.
Yeah.
And what are her issues?
She's got some. A lot of stuff. It's heartbreaking. It really is. You can't imagine that at this day and age in Ventura County that people are doing kinds of stuff that they're doing to these kids. It just breaks your heart. You'd think, you're in the backwoods in Alabama or someplace, but not here, so. That's
what I keep thinking. I have 4 children of my own, and then when their dad and I decided that was enough, and then I started looking to be a foster mom, and he was like, wait a second, we already decided that was enough, and I was like, but there's so many, and then I realized I don't think I'm equipped for that, because I don't know that I could have the detachment that you must have to have on some level, a boundary, if you will, that you just don't rush in there, rescue, save, and try and make it work. So
but that passion is what is necessary too to make sure the kids are doing okay. So it's that fine line. We have good case managers that go, okay, you got to back off. Oh, I've had been told that. I almost got fired by a case manager.
Because you were too involved.
I'm losing objectivity.
I can only imagine. And anything else you want to add? We've been showing your contact information.
Thank you. Yeah, we need volunteers. We especially need men. We need Spanish speakers, but women are great. And we always need funding. We get only a very small grant from the Administrative Office of the Courts, and the rest is by public donations and community groups and private donations. So.
And when does the next training session start?
Well, if we need to, we can start one as soon as we have to. But we want to get at least 20 people who are interested.
Okay. So as people register, when you get to 20, then you start it.
Normally we have a training period, but if we want to start something in January, we can.
Okay. So that means that if you're watching and that you feel as passionately as Andrea has shared, that then you need to call so that you can get on the list.
Please
so that
do.
You can,
we need you.
Make it
the kids
happen.
need you more.
Yeah. Andrea Vigil, thank you so much for taking the time.
Much.
I'm moved deeply by what it is that you're doing for.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So much. So thank you for watching the Maria Sanchez Show. We're going to conclude a little bit earlier today because we are going to Cal State University Channel Islands. We're going to be participating in a ceremony. There is a new dedication going for a building named after local resident Hank Lacayo, and it's from a grant through Southern California Edison, $300,000 to open up the building, and so we are participating in that. So we're shifting gears, and then we'll be there, and we'll show you that also tomorrow after our broadcast on tomorrow. So thank you so much for watching the Maria Sanchez Show. We appreciate your eyes.
Maria's talking so